Hello, everybody. This is Sam Bellier over at Scorpio Rising Astrology, and welcome to the first official week of the public forecast, where we are going to go through the different aspects that we have this week and tell you about what's happening planetarily in the different days of our week, what you should avoid, what potentially you need to remediate, and the best times for you to plan things that you would like to go well. All of these things are based on an astrological perspective that I plan for every week, and if you'd like the day-to-day version, you can always join me on Facebook and Instagram, where I do the daily posts as well. But before we get too deep into an intro, let's pull up the transits, which I've also put in the YouTube description. Now, I recognize that a lot of you aren't astrologers, and for those of you who are, welcome, and you'll find those aspects very helpful. If you don't understand what I'm talking about with these aspects, and you would like to learn more, you can always go to my website, which is scorpiorisingastrology.com. Check out some of the online classes that I have, where I teach about planets, aspects, as well as the different topics that we're about to go into. So I'll give you the summary, I'll give you the synopsis of what's going down this week astrologically, but I would also like you to maybe do your own research to study the planets and watch the stars with me. If it does seem too complicated, you can always send a comment at the end of the video with any specific things that you would like me to answer, and I'll promise that I will get to them as soon as possible. Okay, so let's go ahead and pull up the transit list. Mine are color-coded. Unfortunately, YouTube won't let me color code in the comment section, so I'll be able to show you the detrimental and helpful aspects based on my color code system. Feel free to pause at any time if you'd like to take a closer look at these. But we will pull these up in my Word document. Lovely. So as you can see, I have my aspect code. So neutral aspects are just going to be plain text. Then we have notable aspects in bold, kind aspects in green, mean aspects in light red, and then bold green, helpful, bold red, detrimental. And please note, because I know that I have international subscribers, please note that all of these transits are based on Eastern Standard Time, because I'm in Tampa, Florida. So that's where I run transits from. So I need you to adjust these times according to your time zone as well, because that does affect the planetary transits. So first and foremost, we're looking at Monday, June 8th, and Monday, June 8th, I've termed facing reality. And the reason for that is because we have not very helpful aspects coming forward, but we have 3 conjunctions, and they're all with these outer planets that are all retrograde. And you know, retrograde planets, although they get a lot of flack, especially on social media, I think that we need to respect that retrograde planets are really just trying to teach us a lesson. They're really just trying to remind us that, hey, you forgot to work on these things, and I'm going to need you to work on these things. And we're supposed to say, yes, planets, thank you so much for helping. But instead, we decide to try to do our own thing and try to fight the process. And so let me remind you that Monday is not trying to hurt you at all. Monday is not trying to be difficult, although it may be very difficult. It is trying to remind you of the lessons that you're continuing to work on, in theory, throughout this retrograde cycle. So the moon in Capricorn, the big hard aspects are going to be from 10:59 a.m. to 2:04 p.m. as the moon transits between retrograde Pluto and Jupiter, conjoining those 2 planets. So that's going to be the most frictionless aspect of our day. So really increase your patience at that time. Really remind yourself that, you know, you're not the only person with problems, for sure. And then we have a void moon for a couple hours, which is always an interesting energy, because it's kind of like the reins fly off and we're not being directed by the planets anymore. We're kind of cruising at our own momentum, which in some ways can be dangerous, because the planets can't swoop in and save us, but they have lost a little bit of the connection to oppress us as well. So we're going to feel a lightening of the load as the moon goes void after 2:04 p.m. in the afternoon, and then the moon will pick back up into Aquarius, which is this really nice fixed air energy. I'm always a fan of a moon in Aquarius because it really allows us to emotionally detach. It really allows us to become mentally aware. It really allows us to activate our nervous system, especially from a medical perspective, because the moon pulls fluid into the Aquarius body systems, which are the skin as well as the peripheral nervous system on that day. And then the moon conjoins retrograde Saturn just to kind of hammer home those lessons at the end of the day. Okay, so that's Monday, facing reality. Let's take a peek at Tuesday. Oh, and one of the things that I also do with these forecasts is I put sleep conditions, which I think is always really fun, because the moon is going to be having a 1:29 p.m. square and a conjunction with Aquarius. I don't think that sleep's going to be very favorable, so I'd like you to go to bed early, maybe meditate before bed, exercise before bed, those kind of things to really help your sleep cycles, because there is going to be a little bit of a challenging sleep aspect throughout the evening. But Tuesday is all about changing perspectives, and we're not necessarily going to change perspectives in a nice way, but we will be asked to change our perspective. The moon in Aquarius making a square is a frictionless aspect by nature to Uranus and Taurus, which is a planet known for unpredictability. So the moon in Aquarius is going to make that square to Uranus. It's going to be friction-oriented. Any meetings or any events that you have going on around 1:29 p.m. on Tuesday, just again, plan things out, script things out, make sure that you can control what you can control, because somebody's going to throw a curveball from somewhere, whether it's, somebody, a known enemy or an unknown enemy. There's going to be this idea of unpredictability squaring the moon, which represents our emotional state. Then we have the moon making a trine to retrograde Venus. Normally this would be a really helpful aspect, but the moon is kind of low energy and Venus is technically going backwards. She had a rough week last week, and so the planet of love and relationships still going backwards. In Gemini, there's this reversal of fortune when it comes to the air trines right now. But it's still an air trine. And so at that level, it's asking us to be a little bit more aware of what's kind of floating between our ears, what thoughts are in our kind of internal fishbowl, and really being aware that the way that we are viewing something now does not necessarily need to be the way that we view it always. Inspiration normally comes when there's air trines in the skies. So Tuesday afternoon after 3 o'clock would actually be a really good time to do some creative work, just kind of breaking the mold of your mental space. We have a fair set of sleep conditions in between Tuesday and Wednesday, which is going to be nice, and Wednesday is going to be our nicest day of the week. So if you would like to get something done without astrological harm or without forces getting in your way, I would really time it for around 10:30 a.m. in the morning on Wednesday. Really, anytime that day is going to be all right, but we do have the strongest potential for astrological favor around 10:33 a.m. as the moon in Aquarius makes a trine to the sun in Gemini, which is a very positive aspect between the moon and the sun. So that's that. It's just going to be absolutely lovely. And overall, back to that idea of the air signs, bringing in swift messages, bringing in a helpful sense of openness, of freedom, of the ability to vent or air out one's internal state. I think it's just going to be super duper helpful. Also, from a medical perspective, both Aquarius and Gemini are signs that contribute to nervous system health. So them making a trine on that day is just going to be really good for the physical nerves and really just making everything feel a little bit less restricting on an electrical level for us physically. And another fair night of sleep conditions. However, Thursday is going to be the transition into some of our energetic aspects that are going to be the hardest this week. So Thursday, I've entitled The Beginning of the Flood, because we have a lot of water that's coming down the pipelines for us. And first thing in the morning, we have a 3:50 a.m. aspect, which we're not going to be feeling if you're in my time zone. If you wake up at 5:30 in the morning on Thursday, this will be why. There's a Sun square Neptune at that time. Neptune is a planet that we're going to see a lot of activity with on Thursday, but as well as Friday. There's going to be a lot of stuff happening with Neptune and Pisces. So this is the start of it. The Sun automatically just squares Neptune off the bat on Thursday. So there's going to be this jolt to the ego, and there's going to be a little bit of a the rising of the tides would be a good way to say it emotionally, especially as the moon goes into Pisces at 5:31 a.m. There's going to be a shift to our emotional state. Our feelings are going to be a little bit more feely. We're going to be tapped into the energetic ethers a little bit. Our boundaries are going to be slightly compromised. And then the moon goes into a square to Venus and then a sextile to Uranus. So we have a square to Venus as opposed to a trine to Venus, which is a more frictionless aspect. So the emotions aren't really going to be in a great spot on Thursday morning. So again, patience, kindness, compassion, those kinds of things on Thursday. But then we already talked about Uranus once this week, and Uranus swings back again, this time a little bit more favorably. The moon in Pisces will make a sextile to Uranus, which is a friendly aspect, but it's still a planet of disruption. So helpful disruption. Yeah. As we move into Thursday, just to be prepared for a little bit of spontaneity that kind of throws you for a curveball, but it's not necessarily harsh. Then we have really good sleep conditions between Thursday and Friday, and Lord knows we're going to need it because we're going to be hit by the wave on Friday. So we have Friday, June 12th, which is the flood. The moon in Pisces is going to make 3 aspects to all watery signs. So first we have the moon in Pisces making a trine to Mercury in Cancer. Mercury is that planet that rules the mind, and to make a helpful family-oriented aspect to the moon, you know, it just strengthens the wateriness of that trine. It's kind of like the brain will be underwater at that point. The feelings are going to start to take over. There's going to be a lot of talk about feelings and emotions on Friday, for sure. And not all of it will be super pleasant, but we're kind of walking around in this fishbowl, in this bubble, in this water world on Friday. And as the water aspects continue, and as the moon then conjoins Mars, conjoins Neptune, it's just going to be so important for you to make sure your emotional health is correct. This is the day that I would like you to focus on what's known as astrological remediation. So on Friday, one of the things that I would like you to focus on most, because Pisces is really asking you to get into your feeling space and to let all of those waters flow, is a good way to think about it. So I would really encourage you to do some emotional work on Thursday evening and or Friday morning. Do some journaling, maybe have a good cry, listen to some sad music on the way to work, like get the feelings out before you start your day. Because it's kind of like we're speaking the language of water. And if your rivers are clogged and not up to par, then the water that's flowing through your channels is going to get blocked and create unnecessary pressure. So if you're already putting yourself into that feeling space right off the bat, then we're going to have a lot easier time as the waves roll in. And we do have a poor sleep condition on Friday just because there is going to be a 2:23 a.m. square between the moon and the sun in Pisces. This is the day that I personally am dreading just a little bit, because we have moments of relaxation that are okay, but there are potential for a lot of mistakes to be made here. And as I say this, a cardinal just makes itself known on the bush. So somebody needed 2 cardinals, a male and a female cardinal, coming together right in front of the hibiscus bush in front of my window. So that's just absolutely lovely. So pay attention to what I have to say, because obviously the universe is telling you that it's very important. So we start off with a square, which is never a great sign. The moon in Pisces then makes a sextile to both our retrograde planets, and the big formation this week is Mars conjoining Neptune in Pisces. This is not necessarily a great formation. Mars is a planet of conflict. Mars is a planet of war, of action, of initiation. He really makes his point known in a fierce way. He is very domineering at his worst, and he's in Pisces, which is a water sign, a sign that he doesn't thrive in. You know, it's kind of like an example that I used for one of my clients this week is it's kind of like Mars is trudging through the swamp, like a god of war is like trudging through the swamp, and his sword's getting rusty because the water's touching it, and he's just out of his element. Like he would prefer to be in, you know, some sort of hot desert, you know, swinging a sword, sweating all over the place, you know, very, very movie 300, you know, battlefield, as opposed to the swamps of Pisces. So Mars conjoining Neptune. Neptune is also a planet that tends to be confusing, that tends to bring a sleepy energy, that tends to make things unheard, unseen, and makes us misinterpret things. So for Mars and Neptune to conjoin as well, it just means that our will is getting distracted. It means that we're often going to miss the mark at that time. And I would highly suggest that you watch this time and do not have any important interactions that you would like to go well at this time, because chances are they're just going to end in a puddle of confusion and potentially tears. Then we have the moon in Pisces squaring the nodes, which is also not a great sign. And that's one of the reasons why I titled this day Regret, is the idea of, you know, the moon in Pisces is still in its feelings. And then after this major conjunction, there's this square to the moon, where the moon is just hit by the north and the south node, which is also known as the ecliptic. You know, it often represents the point that we're moving towards and the point that we're moving away from. And to have the moon being torn and tug of war back and forth, it's just not an ideal thing to happen right after that conjunction, because then we question, you know, are we supposed to be where we're supposed to be? And what is it that's actually correct? The moon does go into Aries in the evening and then sextile Saturn. As we start to streamline and focus on Saturday evening, I really think it's going to be much, much better for us. However, Friday night into Saturday is going to be the worst of it. So if you do plan, you know, I know I'm in Florida. Florida has decided, at least Tampa has decided, to reopen some of its bars because we are dealing with Neptunian and Pisces aspects, which are very fond of the drink. Please, 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 if you're going out to bars Friday night onto Saturday, do not, please be very, very careful. Do not overdo it. Do not overexert yourself. If something feels incorrect, if your intuition is getting that hit that something might be going wrong, exit the situation immediately. We don't want any of that regret to be spilling into Saturday for a good reason. We want it to just be, oh, tee-hee, the planets are playing tricks on me. We don't want this. We don't want to give them cause to actually make us regret something. So yeah. But as the evening moves forward into Saturday, we have a nice streamlining effect that's present. And the sleep conditions are fair Saturday to Sunday. Sunday is where we're processing. We have the moon in Aries making a sextile and a square. There's still some residual heat. And Sunday night's not going to be a very fun night to have intellectual conversations because of the square. But we do wake up that morning with a little bit of freshness, a little bit more of that fire-air combination, that combustion to move forward. We're just still processing some of the watery energies left over from Cancer and Pisces and all of that stuff that happens to us earlier in the week. Excellent. So that is the forecast for your week. I hope that you've enjoyed some of this, and please let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what experiences that you have as the week kind of comes through the close and some of these comes to a close and some of these aspects start to play out in your lives. What aspects were favorable to you? What aspects were not favorable to you? And how can you maybe learn from these cycles, learn these keywords, learn this language of the stars, and start to plan your life a little bit more accordingly. So that is all that I have for you this time. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, may the stars be ever in your favor.